the people. We the people. We are the government. We tell the governor what to do. It's we the people. God gives us our liberty, not the government. We the people.
Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights. Fight for your rights.
You guys want to?
USA! USA! USA!
Southbound cars going northbound PCH. Can we please let these cars get over there? Please. Just letting the cars through. Go. You're going northbound. Cars, you go right now. Go. Let's go. Let's go. You're gonna be here forever. Let's go.
We had one. We got two.
Hey, everybody needs to be on the sidewalk, please. Everybody needs to be on the sidewalk. We're opening up these lanes.
Scoot on back, guys.
We're going to be opening up this lane here.
afternoon, everyone. I'm Officer Angela Bennett with the Huntington Beach Police Department. We are here today to discuss some of the recent things that have been going on in Huntington Beach with today's protest and with the closing of our beaches. Today we'll hear from Chief Rob Handy of the Huntington Beach Police Department and Mayor Lynn Sametta. We'll start with Chief Rob Handy.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. Again, my name is Rob Handy, the Chief of Police here in Huntington Beach. I'd like to really start to talk about the protest today, and I think we have to start, I have to start with thanking everybody that was involved today and their response, and that really starts with our officers and our employees. We had a lot of staff down here. It was an all-hands-on-deck day for us. Our whole department was working. They did an incredible job. I'm very proud of the way they performed out there today. We also had our fire department, our marine safety department, our public works department, community services. Virtually every city department was out here today, helping keep the community safe. Very appreciative of that. We also had a lot of mutual aid partners, and those mutual aid partners included several agencies: the Orange County Sheriff's Department, the California Highway Patrol, the California State Parks Police, the Irvine Police Department. We're all here to help us and help keep our community safe. We're very appreciative of that. We estimate the crowd to be about 2,500 to 3,000 people at its peak. The crowd itself was peaceful for the most part. We had zero arrests. We had zero injuries. And again, very few incidents. Most were able to be handled just through education and contact and some persuasion to gain compliance to certain things that we were trying to accomplish. Anytime you get a crowd this size, it's a significant concern for us, especially when they're coming down the street. There's a lot of threats that we worry about. There's a lot of safety issues we worry about, a lot of traffic safety issues you worry about, and the unpredictable nature of a protest. And overall, things went very well. We were concerned going in, obviously, and we're proud the way that the department handled it, our partners handled it, and then we're also grateful to the crowd that was peaceful and demonstrated peacefully and really obliged a lot of our requests. We had met with organizers and people in the beginning and gained a lot of compliance with some of the things that we felt were trigger points and stuff that would help make a peaceful protest, and they were cooperative. We're very appreciative of that. And again, anytime we get this size of crowd, it's concerning, but especially during a pandemic. Our number one goal always is to protect the safety of our community. And during this pandemic, it's been very challenging. And it's challenging for a variety of reasons. If you just think about the balance that we have to try to achieve, you know, we represent and we serve everybody in this community, from our homeless population, our homeless residents, all the way up to our, residents who live in $5 million or more homes, all of our small businesses, our large businesses, all of our visitors. We're a tourist-based economy. We're a beach city. And all of the complications that have come from this affect everybody. Affects everybody here in Huntington Beach. This pandemic does. It affects everybody across the country. Those are difficult things for us to balance when it comes to things like a protest, or it comes to things that we've had to deal with as a police department. A public health concern is not typically in our wheelhouse. It's not something we typically deal with. So for us, it's been a little bit complicated. We're very appreciative of the community's patience. We ask for continued patience. We've had to work through a lot of things as a city, and some of the things that we've had to work through, the mayor's going to talk a little bit more here in just a minute about the beach closures. But with that, I want to talk a little bit about our enforcement of that and kind of the mechanics of that before she comes up. And the closure went into effect late last night. It actually was effective today, but that decision was made late last night after an emergency council meeting. We did not have an opportunity to affect that closure overnight for a variety of reasons, one of which was the protest today. Our resources were dedicated to that. We didn't have the signage that we needed as well, the proper signage. That signage started going up today around the time the protest started in Sunset Beach. It's working its way this way. By the end of the night tonight, before the opening, not the opening, but before sunrise tomorrow, the beaches will be closed. They already are closed. We've been trying to seek voluntary compliance. We'll continue to try to seek voluntary compliance, but all of the proper signage and barricades will be up later this evening. And then tomorrow, we're going to be continuing with our posture of seeking voluntary compliance wherever we can. We'll start with education. We're going to contact everybody. We're going to talk to them about the closure, the purpose of the closure. We're going to ask for them to remove themselves and leave the beach. We're going to seek that voluntary compliance. Ultimately, if we don't get that voluntary compliance, enforcement will take place. And that can come in several different ways, and it's really whatever's necessary depending on the situation. We hope it doesn't come to that. We're confident that our community will be compliant. We're asking our community to be patient. Our city is working very hard. We understand that surfing in the beach is really part of our culture. It's part of our way of life here in Huntington Beach. It's our economy as well. It's a big part of our economy. The city is working really hard to get the beaches reopened safely, and we're asking again for patience during that time. With that, I'd like for the mayor to come up. Mayor Lynn Sameta is going to come up and talk for a few minutes about the rest of the things happening in the city.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. And so I just want to tell you that our city, our whole city council, has been working feverishly since the beginning of when we started dealing with this pandemic to manage it in a way to keep our community safe and to keep our visitors safe. We, our public safety department, our emergency operations team have been working 17 hours a day to try to put into place measures, as I say, to keep people safe and to keep down the spread of the virus. Of course, we're all motivated by keeping our healthcare system at a minimum of having to deal with the virus. So throughout this crisis, we as a city have followed all the governor's directives, the social distancing and the other measures that have been directed to us. We've been following that, and we've really been appreciative of how our community and our visitors have cooperated with that. We feel like people have tried very hard to cooperate and to be responsible. We are acutely aware of the devastating impacts this has had on our economy, on businesses, on individuals. They're worried about their employees, they're worried about putting food on the table for their families. So we're very worried about that. And we know that people are anxious to get back to work. We want to help them to do that. We hope that can happen sooner rather than later. So we share your frustration. A couple of days ago, we learned that the governor was going to be making an order to close all beaches in the state of California. However, yesterday morning, what he actually ordered or directed was just the closure of beaches in Orange County. We were very surprised and disappointed by that because, in fact, as I said, we felt like people were doing a great job doing social distancing on the beaches. There were no mass gatherings. And we actually even have aerial photos to show from our police helicopter that people were, for the most part, maybe not perfectly, but for the most part, the vast majority were following that. And so we felt that that was an unconstitutional overreach. We felt it was unwarranted and not supported by the data, that public health data. In terms of Orange County, actually has some of the lowest mortality rates in California. And so for those reasons, we voted last night to direct our city attorney to seek all legal means that he felt were appropriate to challenge that and object to that decision. However, at the same time, we decided to close the beaches because we felt like there was a great possibility we would be the only local beach here that would be open. And that would be very difficult for our marine safety and our public safety to manage that. And so we decided to close the beaches. And as Chief Handy talked about, that's the situation we're in now. We've been working very closely all along with our regional partners, other nearby cities in the state, beach officers as well. And we will continue to do that. We are hoping the beach can be opened quickly. We'll do that strategically with those partners. And again, to the community, we ask for your patience. We hope that happens quickly, but please be patient with us as to when the beach can reopen.
Do you have any update on that 2:30 hearing?
I do not. I have not had a chance to talk to the city attorney yet.
I think that we're going to have to take whatever comes our way and make that decision with the city. The city council would be involved in those decisions. I don't think we can speak for the whole city council, and the mayor may be able to speak more for the city, but I think from a law enforcement perspective, the beaches are closed. And under what authority and the codes and all that's pretty technical, we're not worried about that. We're also, I can't predict the future, so right now we're worried about now, but if there is a change, we certainly will evaluate that with the city council. The state has the authority anywhere in the state of California. So they're peace officers. They have this. We don't want anything to come of that. You know what I mean? We're really trying to work through this problem, and our council is. We're engaged in the legal process to try to represent our perspective. And again, I don't want to go into that. That's really the city attorney's purview. But we're just going to be patient and see what happens, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Today was more about education, but what would it take to give someone a citation for not leaving the street?
So once we have all the proper signage in place, so part of our code requires the proper signage. It requires an attempt to warn. If we don't get any compliance after we show our presence and we make a contact with somebody and we're talking with them and ask them to leave, then we would be forced to enforce. And it would start with either a civil citation, a misdemeanor citation, or an arrest if we had to. Again, we don't want to go there. That's the last thing we want to do. We are very understanding that surfing and our beaches are so vital to our community. We don't want to do that. We want to focus on trying to get the beaches reopened safely. So I think today it's just voluntary compliance and education. We don't have the signs up. We weren't forcing people off the beach today without the proper signage. So when the proper signage gets up, when we can effect the closure properly, then we'll be moving people off the beach. Just telling them that it's closed. They may have been even asking them to leave. I think that all started today, but we weren't stepping up to that enforcement level with non-compliance today without the proper signage. So if I can summarize the question for people who may not have been able to hear it, just and I want to make sure I get it right. It was a question of this protest was different than others, and what would I say to the protesters standing shoulder to shoulder? Is that essentially the question? So I think I'd say that we don't recommend that. We're not in favor of that. We discourage that. We also are balancing that with the frustration of our community at this point, and there is a balance in there. So there are people that are demanding we enforce certain things of social distancing and other things. We've been doing that through education and other stuff. We don't feel like we've learned many lessons in policing over the years. If you look back at the civil rights era, Vietnam protests and other things, of how to handle protesters and demonstrators who are expressing their First Amendment rights. There's a balance in there. So we discourage it. We prefer it not happen. But we also want to keep the peace, and we want to keep our community healthy and safe. We met with the organizers of this protest. We asked them, and they complied. They posted things on their website. They asked people to wear masks. They asked people to socially distance. Clearly, that did not happen in all cases. There are lots of things that happened that went fairly well, but clearly, they weren't social distancing. There was a lot of things there that were less than ideal, a lot of things that really concern us. Well, I think there's a lot of things that you can do, right? But whether or not and I don't want to get into the legal debate with people, but whether or not you affect those things during a protest, there's a lot of things that we all across the country ignore during a protest when we're talking about minor issues or things, because the risk of civil unrest is greater, right? So we make value judgment. Our field commanders make those value judgments. We try to talk to people, ask them to spread out. We ask them not to group up. Here we had part of the protesters were organized. They were compliant. They did a lot of what we asked. We had a lot of other people that showed up that took a different path. And you saw the separate groups. You saw the group at Pier Plaza to start with. You saw the group up at Main Street and Olive earlier. Those are two separate groups. One was the organizers. Their posture was different than the others. But again, we make judgments and determinations there. What's the value of going into that crowd and enforcing something minor and causing civil unrest versus trying to keep the peace? I completely understand some of the community's anger over the groups and us allowing it, and from their perspective, to happen. We're doing what we can to prevent it, short of mass arrests and other things. We're absolutely concerned about serious things. So when there's a protest like this anytime, we're concerned about violence. We're concerned about violent acts. We're concerned about acts of terrorism or extremism or other things. We've seen those things happen in other places around the country. We had a very robust plan that consisted of a lot of mutual aid, and there were a lot of things behind the scenes and tactics and equipment and tools and things that people didn't see to help keep our community safe. That's really our focus. It's tough for us. It's tough for us. We're in a tough spot. Like I said, I don't think, going into the pandemic, policing was in one of the toughest times it's ever been in. With the intense scrutiny, all of the changes to our criminal justice system that have happened in the state of California and everywhere else, you throw the pandemic on top of this, you put protests and civil disturbances on top of that, it creates a unique challenge for us. So we're doing the best we can.
We have time for like one more question.
Chief, some of your officers say they won't wear masks. Do you guys have a policy or that?
So
by example? Or?
we ask all of our officers to wear their masks, and I have mine here. They've all been given their masks. If they're 6 feet away and out in the open air, they don't have to wear it. If they're out engaging the public, we're asking them to wear them. We're telling them they should wear them. Some of them have allergic reactions. Some of them have other issues with wearing them all day long. So some of them take them off at times. But all of our officers are issued masks and asked to wear them.
Hey, Chief, can you explain? I missed the question. Did you say there were two groups that were going at it and you guys backed on?
Not going at it, no. There was two groups to start in separate locations. So one was up on Main Street, one was on Pier Plaza. One of them was the organizers and the people who put this protest together, and the other groups were people who just showed up. And there was a difference in their posture initially and what they came here to do, and their level of cooperation, their level of social distance, wearing masks, all those things.
But
They merged.
no big problem?
No big problems, no.
Has the governor or anyone from the state given any indication how long this is?
They haven't. They haven't. We're working hard to see what we can do to try to, expedite that.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions for the mayor?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
everyone.